Hello viewers, another beautiful day. Hope your five senses work, health and strength is good or excellent. Alright, what I got for you here? Let's see here. Nvidia finally makes Physx and flow source code open. It says that earlier this month Nvidia announced that GPU source code for its Physx SDK now available as open source. Previously, while the Physx SDK has been released under BSD3 license in 2018, the GPU simulation kernel source code has not been included. The new release adds access to 500 CUDA kernels, which enables features like rigid body dynamics, fluid simulation, deformable objects. Nvidia goals with this release is support learning, experimentation, and development within the technology community. Additionally, Nvidia has made the GPU compute shader implementation of its Flow SDK source. This is a real-time sparse grid-based fluid simulation library, which will provide developers with more resources for fluid models and simulation projects. And then it says, by releasing these resources, Nvidia aims to encourage collaboration and innovation in GPU accelerated compute simulation. Developers, our researchers now have more tools to push the boundaries of what is possible. Adam Moravansky, the Senior Director of Simulation Technology at Nvidia, since the release of the Physx SDK 4.0 in December 2018, Nvidia Physx has been available as open source under the BSD3 license, with one key exception: the GPU simulation kernel code was not included. That changed today. We're excited to share that the latest update to the Physx SDK now includes all GPU source code fully licensed under BSD3, with over 500 CUDA kernels powering features such as rigid body dynamics, fluid simulation, and deformable objects. GPU Physx represents one of the most advanced real-time simulation use of codes of CUDA in GPU programming. We hope this release will be a valuable resource for learning experimentation development across the community. In addition, we also open source the full GPU shader implementation of workflow, our real-time sparse grid-based fluid simulation library. We can't wait to see what you build with it. And then it says the unfamiliar Nvidia Physx original developed by Novodex is a real-time physics simulation engine used for creating realistic motion and interaction in applications like gaming and robotics. It handles rigid body dynamics, deformable objects, and fluid simulation. Meanwhile, Flow, also by Nvidia, is a special library for fluid and gas simulation using sparse grid. Both tools complement each other in simulating physics phenomena, with Flow focusing on fluid gas, while Physx provide a broader scope including rigid body and object dynamics. And it says you can find out about the announcement post here on the official Physx GitHub. Well, AMD went open source first, and then when AMD came out, it was helping those portable gaming PCs like the Steam Deck and all. Nvidia didn't like that, so they're like, okay, we got to go open source too, So yeah, that's where this is all coming from. so yeah, Nvidia trying to keep up in the open source market with AMD. Anyway, some Eternal said this actually, no, let me get, I think Gaming on Linux got one too. Let me get him while you at it. He says, Nvidia open source Physx and Flow GPU code. Since in a nice win for open source, Nvidia have now provided the Physx and Flow GPU source code to expand what developers can do with it. From the announcement on the GitHub from Nvidia developer Adam Moravansky, says since the release of Physx SDK 4.0 in December 2018, Nvidia has been available as open source under the BSD license, with one key exception: the GPU simulation kernel source code was not included. That changes today. We're excited to share that the latest update of the Physx SDK now includes all GPU source code fully licensed under BSD3, with over 500 CUDA kernels powering features such as rigid body dynamics, fluid simulation, and deformable objects. GPU Physx represents one of the most advanced real-time simulation use case of CUDA and GPU programming. We hope this release will be a valuable source for luring experimentation and development across community. In addition, we're also open sourcing the full GPU compute shader implementation of the Flows SDK, our real-time sparse grid-based fluid simulation library. We can't wait to see what you build with it. Explore, experiment, and feel free to post issues or feedbacks right here on GitHub. Yeah, but like I said though, Nvidia is following in AMD's footsteps. Remember, AMD was always open source. Remember that. Says, and then Gaming on Linux says, will be interesting to see what developers end up doing with this. Now that it's all there, what do you think might be? What do you think might enable? Question mark. Anyway, but look, back to the politicians on NeoWind. Eternal Tempest says, since they seem to be abandoning it, it's nice they open source it if enough interest carries the torch, so to speak. And then who was this? Yakumo said this: they dropped 32-bit support for CUDA itself. They ended 32-bit driver support in 2019. It's basically inevitable. Physx X was built on CUDA. 64-bit CUDA support is unlikely to end. In the next decade, on 64-bit Physx is supported on that. And then Ghost Phantom said this: drop support for 32-bit Physx had to happen at some point. Nvidia dropped support only for 32-bit libraries. And who was this? Dutch said this: now maybe someone can create a working translator for AMD and Intel's cards. and then RA said this: and for 32-bit to 64-bit cards. But yeah, this is Nvidia following in the footsteps of AMD. Because remember, AMD was always open source, so was Intel. So Nvidia had to join the party, so to speak. So yeah, it's just like Nvidia now trying to get into the PC handheld gaming market. Yep. Yeah, if you can't beat them, join them. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna leave this video for y'all to enjoy though. But good for Nvidia though. Hope see what they do. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And nice talking to you people again. Crystal, Star Wars, Star Trek, or Dark Side. Go. Peace.